immediately in demo for the Peace Story. I know that you know this game very, very well, and I know that you know this showdown very, very well, and I know you've discussed this showdown very, very well, Asterix, with Ollie, Exaltrocker, quite a lot.
Yeah, this is my favorite series in Siege. This is it. This is the 46th time that we're seeing FaZe versus Liquid.
Wow.
So we are almost nearing the 50th anniversary. That should be next year, I believe. Which
should we do
I'll be
something
looking
for
forward to that. We'll do a dinner maybe for it. I don't know.
Yeah.
In recognition. Yeah, I looked at the map ban phase and I looked at Chalet, which is where we're headed now, and then also Bank. We have not seen FaZe and Liquid play against each other on these maps for quite a while. You would actually need to go back to 2023 is the last time that we've seen a Chalet and a Bank in this matchup. Lair is the decider, and that's quite a frequent one that we've seen this year in recent times. 2 out of the last 3 times they've played each other, it was on Lair. So again, if we get there, that'll make things a little bit more fresher. But certainly for Chalet and Bank, yeah, yes, they play these maps. We know both of these teams will play it, but not necessarily against each other.
I mean, I think it's always just a fun brawl between these two teams, right? Obviously, we can talk about the preferences of map. We can talk about the fact that, across the 3 that we're going to get, we could have a very interesting sort of showdown based on the history, based on the performances. But even just coming into this map as an immediate is, in the immediate history, both of them really enjoy it. Both of them have pretty much entirely mirrored stats. 66.7% win rate on the attack, which they both share, over at least 3 or 5 play days. Both of them only winning over those 3 for FaZe and 5 for Liquid. The defense, both in the high 70s. It's really such a mirror image. And I just want to bang. I want to brawl, and I'll get at least the start of that. In towards the library. They're reading the approach like a book. They've obviously got Cyber hanging around underneath, trying to pot anyone that hops on the double, and it's just this constant sort of network of threat. A pre-ripped C4 will get revealed by a drone, and Handy's position here. So they're probably not going to entirely throw themselves in. They need to put some pressure underneath to stop Cyber, and that's where they're actually going to go first. If they can root him out with a shield holding on towards the window, well, they can't. There's the Echo. I was going to say the Echo, the Ella. Gets double down. There's Handy getting Nesk as well. False start, Liquid.
Yeah, not great. You'd see the intent was to try and take in towards barring games, but just on check, Cyber just sits and looks at a window and picks up the kills. Yeah, Liquid, this is a round to forget. FaZe, very, very good start. And again, you mentioned usually this is always quite a good fixture, quite a good matchup. I mean, in recent times, Emmy, out of the previous 9 times that these teams have played each other, FaZe have won 8 of those. So it has been very one-sided and very dominant into FaZe's side. And maybe that's just a reflection on where both of these teams have been for the past, give or take 2 years. Liquid, we know the struggles that this team has had of just trying to find a roster that works, the amount of change that they've had. Whereas you look at FaZe, when's the last time that team went for a roster move?
I think there's always the idea as well of when you're talking about roster moves, you're talking about the history of rosters, form is a big important part of it. And FaZe have been in great form. They've obviously been sort of knocking on the door of the biggest success or taking it themselves in recent memory. They've attained the goals other people only dream of. Liquid's, well, I don't have to be the first one to tell you that Liquid haven't really. Obviously, you've had the history of Liquid knocking close to the door of success and sort of almost making it and then not quite making it and then having the best players in the world but not quite putting them into position. It's almost like who are you? I'm the person that's lived your dream in some regard, regardless of the history. And as that first round is obviously sort of shepherded to bed there, we'll find FaZe continuing that nightmare of living somebody else's dream. A strong opener or a false start. Hard to say, but, well, Liquid, they're brushed aside on that initial approach, and we'll actually fall down towards the fun of a games room for the second round.
And this is going to be, I think, a round which could really determine, you know, how this is going to go. Like, if FaZe come in here and just sweep another round, just like they did last time, I really do worry for Liquid. Just in terms of, we know that momentum can be one heck of a thing that FaZe can really play with. And, you know, Liquid, I think, through the course of this stage, they have been massively inconsistent. And Cyber, oh my, what a Grim down. This is what I was worried about. I mean, if this is just going to be a sign of things to come, you know, it could be a rough one for Liquid fans.
I mean, they lose the Grim, right? They lose the pressure Maya can apply. They lose the catch on what is a gameplay, or at least part of the catch on what is a gameplay that is working very well for the defenders, which is being mobile, being problematic, and not being scared to swing onto these positions. Fine. They still have a Lion that can pop a couple of E1Ds off. That's about it. So instead, they've got to try and get internal, as Lender is doing, and just ka-chunking their way across the back end of Chalet. They've been able to take a lot of land in towards their hands, but it's not contested. The problem is, when they get to this split, how are you going to remove this mirror window? Fine. You can sort of set the smoke up. You can try and throw a grenade round if you really want, but otherwise, damn it, they're just going to have to try and send a force at this mirror window.
It's going to be a tough one without that Grim to really make KDS feel a little bit unsafe. Maybe, you know, make that Grim force him off that mirror window, but without it, what are you going to do? Throw a nade at him? That's really it. That's all they can do. But if there are one-eye discs in and around upstairs toward library, which I'm sure there is, it'll be quite difficult. Handy as well, a rat position right underneath the double window looking onto the single. I mean, that's certainly something that could trip up a member off Liquid if that is not going to be droned out, which I really doubt it will be. But Liquid just feels as though they've maybe hit a brick wall and they just don't really know how they can go about this.
Well, here comes the grenades, here comes the pressure of that position. They're just forcing them off and trying to get them further and further away, but it's still a watch. And, well, Defo does get one. There's also Cyber picked up alongside Vida King, and a bit of damage done towards KDS, but they find Nesk in and amongst it to level things up. This is that position. Holding on, hoping that they can get the catch. The C4 gets nobody either side. They've drifted themselves deeper and deeper, and it's actually Handy picking up the cover. Oh, Demo! They stuck him, Warden, on the end of a hook, and they reeled them in.
FaZe, never in doubt to win that round out. I mean, you pick off a big old game-changing operator like the Grim, you're always going to set yourselves up for success, and just Liquid, just nothing went for them. You know, just you didn't really know what the attempt to push was going to be. Whenever it did come in, I think it was a pretty limp attempt, you know, let's be honest. So yeah, FaZe just cruising.
Defenders, protect your bombs from
obviously timeout could have maybe been considered, because if you look at the kills spread on Liquid, one guy has got kills and nobody else.
It's a weird one to consider. Like, I fully get your point. I fully get your reasoning there, and it's also their map, which is the other thing where I'm like, that could definitely play into it. But it didn't feel like they were a million miles away. The tough thing sometimes when you're in this situation, they're not being entirely outclassed, I would say. There's some rough decisions in the first round. There they were making some decisions, but the gun fights were going away from them. They pulled them back for a second. So here I think it's more that they want to build into it. If this round goes away from them, 100% will get a timeout. But I think they're trying to trust that they can build into the fighting game of it. Maybe Dafo's just getting there first as well. I mean, who knows? Preparing for the hold above, off towards kitchen, keep themselves obviously rotating round. Not going to go down towards the basement because they don't want the smoke and the pressure. In fact, no, I'm lying to you. They are in the basement. I don't know why I read that as the kitchen. I can't read my own handwriting.
I didn't know that you wrote, you know, the code for the game. Say where the bomb is.
Yeah, well, I still handwrite stuff as Handy kills Lender. I'll handwrite like the site and things like that, so it's in my brain, and then I just apparently wrote it wrong. Occasionally when we have the international.
Handwriting in 2025, my word.
Okay, listen. I was born in the 90s. And
So was I.
Yeah, but very different now. I was born in the 1890s. We have the quick round on towards Ego. as they're trying to just push the vertical players away. They did get one back. And this is what I mean by it's the kill game isn't a million miles away. It wasn't. But think about what they've now lost here, Demo.
Yeah, hard breach. Gone. Ranged hard breach, which again would have been perfect for opening up that long line of sight that we see happen inside of Big Garage onto the wine cellar wall. So now they are restricted. The one hard breach gadget, but still struggling here with roamers, but never mind.
Why?
Diaz gets fed 2 kills. For what purpose, FaZe? Too confident with how they've approached that, and they've been punished massively. So that's a big old lifeline being handed over to Liquids, and they should just breeze past the remaining defenders based on, I mean, you've got a 2-player lead, you've got a hatch open to you also. Just play your basics, double up, take your trade game, you'll be fine, no problems at all.
Yeah, that was unnecessary. They get themselves to 4 versus 2. They've now turned what was a flat game with still time being wasted into this advantage. Maybe they were just trying to cover for one player that wanted to swap. Well, I know that is why they're saying it. I know I'm saying why out loud. They wanted to try and get the players back down via West Main, and they hoped that they could get the cover with the first and swing for the trade on the second. Just poorly opted, and Diaz more than happy for that fight. This position, well read, well known. Well. This could be the end of a round. It is. Nesk gets the last, and as we sort of said, why didn't they take a timeout? That's why. They weren't a million miles away, and now, with a round like that, you'd think, well, hey, maybe there's a lot more in that tank.
Yeah, good stuff from Liquids. I mean, again, gift it on a plate for them. Diaz picks up that double kill, and you just know that, yeah, it's going to be Liquids round. So, FaZe just over swinging a tad. And now we see the second set of bans. I mean, we see a Blackbeard and an Ella ban come in. And generally, I would say that the Ella will be a bit of a target ban, maybe towards Cyber, because the last time that we went upstairs, he was on that Ella. And also, Ella's just great currently against shields, but you see 2 shields being banned, you're not going to get the full value of being able just to run like a double shield. You're really going to be restricted to either the Blitz or the Fuse. And look at Lenda, straight onto that Blitz, realizing that, we won't have to deal with the Grismots, can certainly make something happen on the Mad Blitz Chalet. I wonder what the approach is going to be, though, from Liquid, because they tried to clear the map. They tried to come in through games, in through library, and just were completely shut down. And based on the lineup, I mean, this screams rush, no? I mean, you see the Sense come in a full operator change-up. I mean, it could just be a very plain and simple solar across. Use a lot util, get the Sense maybe over towards big window, cover off the angles, go for the swing. I mean, certainly there's possibilities here.
Yeah, okay, the main limitation here that I can think is no hard breach. Obviously, they've sort of opted for just getting themselves in with what is already put in towards their position, but with box, with that sort of setup, and with what you need to get cracked open, it's a curious approach. They obviously have the chance of catching these loose players. They've obviously opted to try and swing it on fights. Cyber has built himself a little base here with the shield as well. This is such a, come on, fight me over here method, and they seem to want to. But it's not just a position you can pop yourself in, whether you want to take from the mudroom side, whether you want to try and take above and put pressure down. I really hope they don't just hop the double window again. But it's keeping Maya at bay, at least, and, well, it's a minute, fine. It's not the biggest amount of time wasted, but he still could slip his way back in if he wanted. He's not being put under any immediate pressure, other than just summoning some of this play out of people. There's the call, there's a bit of a flash, and a turn around the corner, answers the phone, and they sort of put a couple of shots over the bow to say, we know that you are, but look at all of this steady surrounding here, Demo.
Yeah, I mean, Cyber's fairly safe. He knows nobody can jump in through that double window without him knowing, because Denari is kind of like Ella. You've got the same gun, you've got a trap. I mean, it's still what Cyber wants, so the Elabant, yes, it would have been targeted towards him because he did a great job the last time that he was here, but still able to find an alternative, find a solution to the problem. You just worry here for Liquid that the time now, I mean, 1:15 remaining. They haven't found this player as of yet. I mean, they still have to attack the bombs. Like, that's the scary thing about all this.
I think that's the main stress, right? They finally get their first kill. There's a second. Maya's activated. Okay, cut their way across the top. Now looking down the main stairs, seeing if they can circle somebody else, and they do. It's all happening on the far side. At this point, it's like a horror movie for the side of Souls, watching all of his team just die. And he's left alone. They've got the site. They've got everything. Who needs hard breach? Who needs the other approach when you've got bloody Maya?
A 4K. Nowhere. There's nothing going on there for Liquid. And Maya just, he just slipped up towards the double door and piano and just picks up 2 kills, opens it up, picks off the player going for the flank. And it makes no sense the way that FaZe have just capitulated, because Liquid didn't really do a whole lot. They just kind of, you know, took a bit of ground, but it's not as though you're seeing the traditional way of attacking that top floor where the wall gets opened up. You're chasing, you know, getting that plant down. Just the kills appeared out of nowhere.
Attackers have discovered the location of a bomb.
It was weirdly sudden, I think, more than anything. Right, I know that we were sort of sat there going, there's a lot of time here. Looking at our watch and looking at, is anything they're looking at this? Oh, they've just hopped in. And they've hopped in immediately on towards the pressure on Ivy. Now they're fighting down the main stairs of the 2K. Where did that come from? I don't even know, actually. That's where we saw them. Whether that was where Maya entered or they entered onto, like, outside box and from the double window on rafters and just picked up a couple of kills. Yeah, okay, it's worked out brilliantly. The round ended up entirely into their favor. They're not just doing that for the sake of doing that. They would have information and support and everything, but also in that situation, what happens if they lose that first engagement? Which, you know, what happens if they lose the second and you don't have Maya just suddenly turning on the kill button? Hey, I guess we don't have to know.
It's a good bounce back here from Liquid. And if you look at Chalet, I always lean into the attacker-sided natures of things. I think attackers should be getting a 4-2 split. Just with the way the map plays out. Don't have to focus too much on, you know, kind of traditional approaches, open up patches, doing vertical work, getting walls opened up. It doesn't really come down to that. It's more your coordination and how well you can dump util into one certain spot and have those great pinches and crossfires that you gain from the exterior windows that this map does offer. And certainly whenever it comes to this bar and stock, it's all about how well you can clear top fireplace. You look at lineup from Liquid, they have the shield. So they have their main man that they can fire in, create the chaos, kind of drag players out of position. And then they've also got plenty of utility. You've got flashes to support that blitz. You've also got the nades. So there is possibility here for a really good execute. And look, their staff will get in a kill from the office, using long angles, using those DMRs, which are so common. Here comes the blitz. And again, it should just be the easy pinch, and blitz, almost thought about going for it. But again, Handy's just not in a great position. I'm surprised he's not dead. Now he is. Like, it should be sweeping this top floor.
Yep, it's a 3 versus 4. So Souls does find one before the pressure comes together, but there's Diaz. Getting on towards Vida King, maybe, well, did overstay a welcome and was shown the door violently. Now, 2 FaZe players opting to try and get one more before the drop comes together. If they can just slightly shake things off. It wouldn't be the worst idea. Just catch one player before they go for a drop and catch one bit of a problem. You can see that problems are sort of mounting everywhere, though. They've got a shield outside the double window. They've got people above them, and... oh, Cyber's found one. Diaz gets Souls. There's Cyber for another. Actually going to try and push his way up top. As the plant is being secured, Diaz is watching and waiting. The Finker about to find a fight. They're expecting the fight, and there's Cyber. Sprays through and gets a triple. A 1 versus 1 against the Blitz. And, well, they've headed outside. This is that sort of problem, right? They're ready. Ready for the swing, ready for the engagement. The shield will go up. They've got to go for it. Cyber, what? Unbelievable! What he has just done! How on earth can he be that good?
Wow. That right there, that's the most impressive thing. Because really, Liquid, in terms of the clutch, simple. Really simple for Cyber. You think about every single engagement that he got into, it was all 1v1s. Yeah, there was never a situation where he had to go for a snappy shot or jiggle pit, whatever. Just straight 1v1 gunfights. Every single time, Liquid allowed him to get back into that. And look, in terms of the 1v1, where that blitz comes into it, yes, it's a blitz. Do we expect Blitz to win that? Probably not. I just think we're impressed the way that Cyber has killed him. Full 180 snap onto his head.
Oh, ludicrous.
It was, yeah. And also, just really highlight how, he's such a top player in the world, yeah? He knows for a fact there's no point pulling off straight away as soon as that Blitz comes around the corner. Almost bait the Blitz and thinking, oh, is he really going to try and stick it? And I was like, nope, he's going to turn around and shoot you. Like, really, if you break it down systematically, it was just perfectly played.
I mean,
he's living rent-free in his head. Rent-free in Lender's head.
It was so good, it made me sound like I was doing an impression of Morty. It was unbelievable. And just sat, waiting for the sound of him to ADS as well to make that his go-to. Ludicrous. Well, that one might haunt them a little bit longer, but they could still get themselves tied up even here. FaZe, at this point, will they try and push themselves on towards 4-2? Remember, this is Liquid's map. The FaZe opted to start on towards their attack. I guess they'll see if they can try and keep the momentum going. As we sort of talked about before, both these teams are equally good on both attack and defense. Here. Now as they try and just snatch pressure on towards the clash of Vida King, you think about what they might be able to do to remove this clash from their position. Obviously the Flores drone that they have left could try and apply some pressure if it gets deployed, but in terms of active aggression...
Yeah, brilliant.
Ooh.
Yeah, really, really good. I mean, this is kind of like the variation of the W7M strap that we would see. The old, Furia now, whatever they're known as W7M. You would open up one side of that office wall, and you just play really aggressive off it, and they're doing the aggression via the clash. And I mean, Liquid are going to just try and go for the full send, but yeah, it's not going to work. FaZe are really digging their heels in, and there's still that clash upstairs, who is always going to be the biggest issue here for Liquid, I feel.
Couple more kills traded back and forth, a 3 versus 3, but with the clash still on the board, that can be that moving problem, that mountain to have to overcome. Maya. Oh, are they about to get a freebie? They heard something. They didn't go for the drop. I was almost excited to see it, but as a smoke gets themselves in a very sticky position. And they heard you too as well. They're just hoping that they can be a little bit more off kilter and unknown. 40 seconds though here, and Liquid just got to try and bunch themselves together. A smoke canister goes out from Maya. They're trying to just draw the focus away from the wall, from the breach itself. Handy is the one that they need to try and get the pinch on, pre-firing angles, and there's the call where he is. So now here's the push that needs to come together, but there's clash. Uh-oh. There's the read on this position. They're swinging either side. They're wasting time. 20 seconds, and the clash can just try and get Handy out, but cannot. So instead, now the clash has to try and run away, and they're actually going down. They're saying, no, you've got to split your attention. Come chase me. You're not going to move towards the site, and that's an execution. Whoa! There's still another player. Oh, and they're able to do a little bit of damage.
That's the plan.
1 versus 2, but think about it. It's on the plant now, as you said. They've just got to try and watch this clash. There's the deploy. There's the fire, and that's Diaz! Tears the head off, and we have an even half.
Wow. Wow. Oh, can I be critical?
I would hate you if you weren't.
So, situation, diffuser gets dropped, top fireplace, and obviously attackers need to come get it. All right? Pretty simple objective there. I feel as though that clash was not utilized to the degree that it should have been for holding that top floor. I'm shocked that the clash isn't just sat right beside the smoke and almost using it to support that player. Because the smoke was kind of left up to dry against that player pushing up the stairs. And yes, there was a lot of time wasted. And I think whoever it was, who was the defender who got the kill instead of us, forget who it was, got the first kill. Why did he just stay in the corner? That's the bit that gets me. He sat in the exact same position. He just killed a guy. Obviously, the teammate's going to come and pre-fire that same position. He has legs. That's the bit that I think really shook me up, is how that other defender hasn't done more in the position. Was in the perfect spot, catches Liquid as they're full sprinting to try and go down the hatch to get themselves into the bomb site. They go for the plant. He gets that kill. He simply just repositions, and they would have won that round. No doubt about it. But because he's just sat in a corner and died, just opens things up. Yeah, that's the bit that I think's really gotten under my skin. FaZe did the right thing there, but still somehow ended losing it.
Reload. 10 seconds to insertion.
So, we wanted a brawl, and that is being in its own way provided. Here, is this route the one we expected to take? Probably not. But it's the one that we find ourselves sitting in. At this point, as I said, it's so open to either side. Being the one to put the distance in, being the one to just set themselves apart, 3 apiece, and yeah, okay, you're having a couple of big moments, and you're having a couple of people not quite hit the game yet, but it's always possible, right? It's always bubbling under the surface. Now we'll see if the ban of the couple of shields is something that entirely removes them away. They still have, in some effect, a shield of their own. Or a couple. With the Ossa. It's a steady application here. That entry engagement. I'm not going to say it's been the most precious decider. It's sort of even-handed if he's been the one able to push it over, but generically it's gone into the favor of FaZe. Wondering if now they're on the defense, Liquid, and they're able to sort of rebuff and repel this approach. They might struggle, but when you've got Cyber, who's playing a really good game and has often been a point man across some of the biggest games there have ever been, he's going to have to try and find himself in a direct fight. A little bit of a odd obfuscation. And that means that the drop won't be as clean, but just trades of utility right now, Demi.
I think they're using the sense to almost bait in the defender to go for the peak, because he obviously has this kind of one-way angle, doesn't he, to almost find the pick. And this is always going to be the problem with Shallow that the attackers always have up their sleeve, is these exterior angles. I mean, all of them just sat on windows waiting for the peaks, and it just makes things really claustrophobic for the defenders. But there's a player inside a closet right now who could be an issue, but never mind. Daffo, with a long spray, finds Handy. Oh, Viking trying his best to get that pinch, and finally they do take down Mai on that bathroom door, but still FaZe on the great position. They still trail in the man count.
At this point, I said Cyber could be important, and he's going to be maybe the most important, because Viking and KDS haven't quite been able to get themselves odds and ends in towards this engagement. Daffo, though, and Diaz both have had their moments. This next engagement has to be his to take, and as he slips his way up, Concerned gets a freebie. Daffo, where you looking? Not the right way. There's at least one traded out, though. Diaz makes sure that Liquid keep themselves a bit mobile. The swing on double window. 20 seconds. The C4 doesn't catch it, but Lender sure does, leaving a 1 versus 3. I said he would be the one that would have to take point. He's also going to have to take everything else. And with 15 seconds, oh, it's really Liquid's to throw away. Hops in, knocked out. Liquid get the first defense.
Yeah, the really important player for Liquid was Diaz, inside a closet. Just sat in a corner. One nade, he would have been dead. Simple as that. There is nowhere else that he could have moved, but because there was no, I would say, lethal utility being used by Liquid, he can just sit there. And as long as he's in that position, you can't get yourself into bedroom, you can't go for a plant. Really poor fundamentals there for FaZe to not assess, okay, what's going to be the danger points, and that is certainly one of them, and it's been completely missed by FaZe. So Liquid, effing's right in that first defense, and just play into the system. I mean, if they're not gonna, Diaz probably thinking, well, if they're not gonna move me, I'm just gonna sit here. Simple as that. He's got squatter rights in that closet.
I mean, you've got to give credit as well to his generic positioning. Not just in that sort of round, but even on the attack rounds, he was always in those places to be reactive, right, to where FaZe wanted to be in these trade positions. It's one of the biggest criticisms that we've generally levied against a lot of teams, it feels like recently, is that their sort of positional awareness of not only where they can be to operate amongst the plan, but where they need to go to ensure it can come together is one of those players that today has just been a sort of delicate dance of death. They've driven around Liquid. One step ahead here on towards their map. They've not felt a need for a break of play. Instead, happy to take the pace. But at what point do we think FaZe might drift there? As I said before, it's been so traded. All of these rounds, all of this contention. They're a team that can sort of happily drive themselves up. But see, now that's 2 rounds in a row, either side of the turn of the half here for Liquid. It was FaZe 3-2 up, now to 4-3 down. This is 3 rounds in a row. That could be a bit of a blow. FaZe sneakily slipping their way across and they lose it out. Maya add another one on for the tally.
Oh, FaZe just can't get anything right on their attacks. No picks as of yet. Maya just hot right now. Can't really put a foot wrong. Viking is a pretty good headway now into a position where he can maybe try and explode in towards top fireplace onto the position that Daffo is in right now, because also, I mean, Mayo's HP can't really help him. I mean, he's going to be pretty scared to go for these challenges, knowing that all it takes is one scratch and he's gone. The nade will scare him out, and now top fireplace is in control, but have they done their due diligence? Have they cleared out library? No, they haven't, and Daffo is going to be stuck here, no way out. Never mind.
He's found a way
There's
out.
always a way out. There's always a way.
Can he make it? How has that happened? The coverage of the C4. I mean, hit the full Mayday button. And FaZe missing a moment like that. They've got themselves close here. Maybe uncontested. Cyber again is wanting to be that player that's the lockdown,
Wow.
but Nesk prepped, primed, and ready to pounce. At this point, FaZe, they're swatting at ghosts. KDS goes down, gets picked back up. They bait in a fight onto Daffo, but 30 seconds left. Maya's still back. They still need to put themselves on towards the site itself, and there's the close fight. There's it. Whoa! I don't even really know how that one came together. I thought the hit connected. So did they. Driven themselves in and saved by a wall. The kid is stuck. Hitting in barbed wire. Surely a timeout.
Yeah, gotta be. I mean, Liquid are what sweet.
3
rounds?
3 rounds in a row.
3 rounds in a row. I think right now for FaZe, missing a lot of opportunities. It's not as though Liquid have played perfect. Yeah, I think Liquid are just playing what's in front of them and it's getting by. But really, there's 2 occasions back to back. One, guy stuck in closet, can't do anything against it. Haven't been able to get that, on the surface, pretty easy kill. Next round, guy stuck in library. On the surface of it, pretty easy kill. Haven't locked it down. There are opportunities for FaZe to punish Liquid, and they're not taking them. Maya could do no wrong. Yeah, no matter what happens this series, Maya's MVP, right? That's it, he's done. That's it. He wins it, first map. FaZe need to really analyze what is going to be the easiest way for us to win the rounds, because they're making it so difficult. So difficult.
Oh, I mean, full credit here towards Liquid. The statistic that was given, how many series over the past X amount has it been a FaZe win?
8 out of the 9.
And here, this is a Liquid that is just lessons learned, right? Yeah, it's their map. But the way they're playing, the control they're able to put themselves in here against Liquid, the confidence that they're stepping in, it's also worth sort of remembering in the grand scheme of things, it's probably the closest these two have been in a league for a while, right? You've obviously had some good league performances from the side of Liquid. fine. They often get to playoffs, if not usually always.
Seconds left before
But
insertion.
FaZe are often towards the top of the board. Here, what, 2 points separates the pair of them? Then in a way, neck and neck, regardless of previous results and
Attackers are
that
heading
sort of
out to
history.
defuse a bomb.
Taking their time out. Is going to be something that helps push them on? I know you sort of said it after the second round. What should Liquid take their time out? There's only one player that's got kills. You're hoping Vidiking and KDS can have that effect now of being like, ooh, it's been this many rounds and they've only got a kill each.
Yeah, they need to switch on. Really do. I suppose you also could put it down to, you know, obviously rounds that Cyber have clutched up and have played, you know, big. Those have really been the only rounds that FaZe have won. Liquid are probably thinking game should be done by now. But that's how I'd be feeling if you're a Liquid fan, especially that 1v4. I mean, that was a round that obviously should have went in Liquid's way, but still, Liquid able to shake off moments like that, which, you know, we see teams, if they lose a big old round that they should always win, and they lose that, teams will just get tilted, they'll get rattled. No, Liquid have stayed really, you know, collected here. Always just thinking, right, next round. Don't worry about that. Keep going. And they just keep running through the strategies. Speaking of strategies, we're seeing the kind of generic, I think, hold that we typically see for Kitchen is a 2-3 split. 2 players in the bomb site, 3 players upstairs. And they will be also fortified in with the Zazami, an operator that generally does get banned out on Chalet, but FaZe have allowed it up for Liquid, and Liquid's thinking, well, we'll take that straight away, the way that she can reinforce some of these rooms. And thinking about like Chalet, you do have these quite large open rooms, but there will always be like something to place to keep it on, which just makes her very, very special in this map. There's Cyber, opens up onto land, and oh, I like this. I really like this. Maya, again, or Daffo, sorry, it's this time, but not the same effect of Maya. Maya never would have died in that scenario.
They're still standing there, and they can try and prove that right or wrong later. And on towards the back. They got rid of Cyber. They got rid of that point man I said is so important. They also got rid of the Deimos. And now as they sneak their way up, KDS takes a shoulder and a shake of damage. The drones are rolling out ahead, but he's a bit nervous. He's a bit coy about taking the fight, because they've otherwise not opted in towards his favor. More blinds, more throw of utility, and nothing to win on the back of it. Maya has a camera of his own, giving all of the intel, and when they approach, giving him the awareness when to swing. And now with the pressure on the windows itself as well, they're trying to pinch a very important player. 3 players dedicated and wrapped around this position now, and he's still able to slip his way. And Ness does the opposite, wants to find the fight. The blinds come out, and there's the pop of the smoke, but they've already rotated around and found their way across. 15 seconds. They've got to just try and send it at this point. They're still trying to go deep outside of West Main window. We can see some of the approach on towards the narrow walk-in. There's at least one on the side of Handy. There's one back for Maya. They don't know really where to look. There's the pre-fire angle. The plant is going down, but oh, can he retake the momentum? He's slipping his way all the way across. No, he just can't get there in time. FaZe wrap that round, but as close as you like.
Yeah, looks like the timeout has worked well for FaZe. And again, I think that comes down to really good opportunity spotting. You see an opportunity to go for the plant. You're thinking, really look at the operators. What do they have to stop us getting into kitchen? Or not kitchen, dining, sorry. Into dining, in behind the bomb, and going for a plant. Nothing. They don't have any denial operators that could have really packed a punch there. So I think that's a good assessment from FaZe. They're finally making things easy. You know, if you're looking at a kind of, 2v4 scenario, or 3v2, whatever it was, and you know that nobody's going to stop you getting a plant, do it. Just go and plant. Simple as that. So yeah, FaZe, make life easy for themselves. That's what they need to keep doing if they want to grind out a result here.
Defenders, protect your bombs from being defused by attackers.
Now it's back within only touching distance. That run of rounds is ended, and they've won that most important one in multiple different ways. One way, it was to stop a run of Liquid rounds 3 in a row. Gone 2 ways, it was immediately after their own timeout. Great. 3 ways, well, it was also the one that kept them off of map points. However, now all the site, well, back towards the first site, is back open again. One that was already won once here by Liquid. The FaZe are going to have to show adaptation that can carry them further. They get this, though, and suddenly Every site is open again. We are all tied up and even, and we've had FaZe do something they haven't been able to do since the opening 2 rounds, is tie 2 rounds together.
All saves lives. Remember that.
Well, they need to keep it going.
Reload.
They want to get themselves over Chalet and onto their map pick of Bank, but for Liquid, nothing to worry about just yet. They will take up the mantle of our top floor bomb site in towards bedroom now, and well, we've seen this before. It was Cyber who did this for FaZe, but now it is going to be Lambda downstairs in Bar & Games using the Denari to block off the windows and entryways into that area. So you'll always know if someone's going to try and challenge onto him, and he can have a more favorable matchup. And very tough kind of, I think, setup here that FaZe need to go for. A very big extension here from Liquid using mirror windows over towards Library, wanting to lock down the whole all of top floor to try and support this player inside Bar & Games. But I think the biggest issue, though, is he's by himself. You know, who's going to be able to trade him?
I think that's always that position, right? We sort of had these conversations before of FaZe on their defense holding on to it and just sort of leaving Cyber in that position, and Cyber wanted to find the fights and let them come at him and then go from that position. Same sort of arguments here of who's going to get the trade, who's going to get the coverage, who's going to get whatever. Well, as pressure comes on towards the main stairs and you're still stuck on the other side of Mudroom, nothing has really grown. Myers used the smoke canister and slipped away. He's actually going to slip his way back in. He's drawing the focus in. Nesk, he takes a little bit of a fight from range, and as the flashes come over the top, he's actually just going to rotate himself in towards Library by the looks of it, because will they still have the ground as Cyber now goes underneath, face clearing the stock and the prep, and instead a close fight right on the door. But all this just for a drop of Maya.
It's a lot. It is a lot, and the nades is able to push him out, get the pickup. Good from Cyber. But the time, more than anything, is the worry now for FaZe. They've got under a minute left to try and make this a success, and there's still a player top fireplace. And I mean, if Nescas went unnoticed, he could just appear with 1 or even 2.
Well, there's the appearance. Cyber goes down. Davro gets handy as well, because they were so baited in. Locked, and that's what happens when you lose all your time. Lender finds KDS. And it is all fallen away. Bitter King, 20 seconds, 1 versus 4. Knows somebody's trying to come up behind him. And at this point, Mira doesn't need to swing, because Diaz is there to do it instead. Liquid, they sit themselves now on map point. They have a buffer of 2. Will we be on our second map soon?
Well, I think we might be. Liquid looking really convincing here on Chalet. No issues for them. Good game plan. Waste a lot of time. FaZe were painfully slow with getting things sorted. And because they're rushing, they're pressured by the time, they're missing basics. You know, basic stuff. Is fireplace clear? We don't know. And then a guy appears on fireplace and kills the guy jumping in Library. You know, moments like that. Give credit, though. Liquid supporting each other really well on that top floor. Really nice crossfires being established. I mean, that's what we expect to see from attackers, is those great crossfires, being able to trade one another really, really well. It's the defenders on this half which is doing that. I'm just not seeing FaZe play to the strength of how Chalet's supposed to be played.
Deploying jammer.
Maybe it's just one of those wins in a map ban phase
10 seconds remaining.
that plays it against. I mean, it's the hard thing to call, right? Because we sort of talked about it before of map strengths and where these teams can find themselves. Here on Chalet, they both have decent records and very decent stats on their splits. I mean, FaZe 3-0, it includes a 7-2 against Furia, a 7-2 against NIP, and another 7-4 against Furia. Liquid, in the meantime, their games, yeah, they've got 2 7-0s in there against Black Dragons and Lab. That's pretty good. And an also 7-2 against Furia, but also a 7-5 and 8-7. They've been stressed and stretched further and further on this map. Here, it's just felt very, very smooth. And then you look over to the other side, you look over to map 2, and it's a bit more obvious how it's probably going to go. Liquid 0-3 on Bank, whereas FaZe 4-2.
Drone ready.
But a lair, where we go back to stats like this. where both of them quite enjoy it. Both of them are pretty good at it. I think at this point we're going to have our 3 mapper here. But as Maya is almost the first to go, doesn't quite get caught out from the pressure and is able to pull back. Oh, they're still going to have to deal with the problem child that has been that thorn in every single side. Cyber does find Nesk as the first. There's Maya with the shotgun, gets the second right back. KDS finds Lender, though, traded, and oh, there's almost 2 immediately threaded, but Daffo gets the double dip of Cyber and looks to find another fight. He's being sprayed through, gets a drift and a drive-by on towards KDS, on towards the secondary now, and they just keep the pressure up. Souls shuts it out, leaves just Diaz alone. With a minute 20, that's some of the fastest approach we've had of FaZe. But it's the finish that matters the most, and they seem to be probing. They have so much time here, Demo.
Yeah, much better adaptation from FaZe. Just pick up the pace. You know, we've seen them struggle with the time. A lot of their attacks so far in Chalet. I just think that's a round where Liquid just not reacting well enough. Is it a case where FaZe have been very slow, and that's just the playstyle that they've kind of got used to in this game? And then a fast run happens, you think, oh, well, we weren't ready for that. And maybe now that will wake up Liquid, and they're going to use the timeout now, maybe, just to kind of just get that final round over the finish line and lock it out. So we'll see what the kind of approach is going to be, what the defense is going to be. Is it going to be more a strategic one where they're really going to think about, okay, let's go for this bomb site, let's do X, Y, and Z? Or is it just maintain the course, don't let the mental slip? Is it, you know, that's usually the 2 timeouts we see.
Well, this is the one that Liquid opt to call here, because they know how close they are to pushing it over. And at this point, you know, when you're talking about, as you said, the fine margins, do you want to just try and rally the team? Do you want to try and get your in? Or do you want to call a specific strat or a specific play? It's, unless you're in that call, you don't really know what's needed. Unless you're in that sort of position, you don't really know. But to be fair, these 2 teams have been neck and neck for a long time. If anything, there's been a bit of a tire towards the end of it here of FaZe, but nothing that entirely washes you away with it.
Protect your bombs from being defused by
Liquid,
attackers. Bomb
I think would prefer to get this done within regulation, because as I said, statistically, they're going to have a very rough second map.
New camera feed up
And
running.
I think this is going to be the decider if we have it in a 2 maps or 3 more than anything. And FaZe, though, now with another timeout and still with the performances being put together, we've obviously, since it was noticed, Fitter King has got 1 and KDS has got another 3. They've stepped in towards a mantle, but
10 seconds left
dream team
before
pairing of Maya and Daffo is that extra step, is that extra little thing that Liquid have kept themselves sort of slipping around the map of Chalet with.
defuse a bomb.
One more approach, potentially. The Blackbeard's on board. FaZe.
Attackers dropped
And they
the
get it
diffuser.
done.
Attackers recovered the diffuser.
Pulsing mags.
Maybe they see an opportunity here for a quick one. I mean, the hatch is soft, and certainly wouldn't be the first time we've seen a quick jump in through the double window, but maybe not any longer, as that hatch is now open, so it does kind of dismiss that opportunity. But for FaZe, looks to be a full sweep across, I believe, coming in through solar side of things, and the player inside of bathroom right now, that's going to be Daffo. Has he been drone, though? That's the real question. Are they ready for him? And Daffo doesn't know if he wants to play aggressive or just take his time with it. Oh, the pinch is there. They had information on him. ADS opens things up. First pick goes to FaZe.
Oh, that could be a very important one, as I said. The duo dream team of Daffo and Maya has been that sort of tour de force here for Liquid. At this point, they've been forced out early. Minute 50 still to cook with throughout this. They've gotten a decent chunk of the map under their control, and they have more than enough time to try and run the numbers, work out the positionings, and go for that trade game, that advantage, as they can press and impress it upon the second story here. Remember how long it took for them to try and catch certain players before, and now on towards this positioning, there's just a bit more FaZe to work with. The pace they learned and applied in the previous round is continuing here on. Ooh, scared and pre-firing on towards this position. Maya's going for a bit of a journey all the way down, slips their way out, and now they're in the basement alongside Lender. They've fully peeled away from the site itself. Hoping FaZe takes a bit of the bait and they go for a bit of a retake pressure here. There's a mirror alone, but it's also the situation of, yeah, it's Diaz, but if they can get a read on, they can just smash their way through. It's one of the hardest retakes on a plant here. So they're really trusting these long angles, Demo.
You need to get the shield in a position where you can just go for it. I mean, like you mentioned, there's a mirror by yourself. Get onto that, trying to isolate that pick if you can. I mean, the shield doesn't really care about the mirror windows, but I think it's pretty obvious. I mean, FaZe know where Liquid are going to be. They've thrown the sight out. Now they know it's going to be a retake, and Cyber is locked onto that. A big old double kill, and yeah, Cyber cannot be stopped. 3 kills, 15 seconds left, and no way out for Diaz. Locked inside connector, goes down. FaZe. I mean, they had everything there. They knew where they weren't, so therefore they knew where they were.
It's a bit of a weird one that round, I think. Maybe they were a bit overly cautious. Maybe I don't know what the exact call was there for Liquid's defense, but the fact that they pulled so far away, it gave FaZe the chance to just take ground, right? The ripping down the door as the rotate round on the backstab isn't great. That obviously gave Cyber the lead in for what was a pretty easy kill. Maybe they didn't expect anyone to be in that position, but at the same time,
Need to locate and defuse as many
you know,
bombs as they can.
it led to what it led to, and a great reaction there from Cyber. And also, as we sort of said, Cyber, that point man, how terrifying a force that can be. At this
He's
point,
the reason why they're in this game.
Oh, 100%.
Like, no doubt about it. Like, I mean, I would say you make the argument for Maya, but really, let's be real, it is Cyber. Cyber had that massive clutch against Liquid.
It's not even, I mean, I don't think it's that wide a statement to make as well. When you look at the sort of kill difference, there's 2 players that are positive on the side of FaZe. Cyber has the best KD of anyone in the game itself. Yeah, sure, Maya, 13-9, some big rounds, some big moments. But Diaz, 11-6. Dafo, 11-8. They've all had these sort of splits. Nesk is almost even as well. They've had a couple of big moments. Liquid as a team, generically, I think have played better. But they're also a different dynamic because FaZe, yes, we know the capabilities of all these players. They can prop somebody up in that sort of setup. They can let them sort of live their dreams. And here, once again on their attack, but now with much more confidence, can they do what they haven't been able to do so far on this split and win an attack on towards this side? It's otherwise been pretty handily Liquid, even on the other side of things as well, where Liquid won it on one of their attacks. FaZe have struggled to get things to land in the bedroom.
FaZe on the attack, still carrying that momentum. Windows is after here. KDS trapped a sense wall and very, very close on that window. Waiting for his opportunity, and obviously Nesk, I don't think has any idea where he is, but Nesk Elf not looking for the jump out. I mean, this is a weird one here for KDS. And oh, you see a shoulder. He sees him, I think. Did he? I don't know. Hello?
It's so obvious to us. But
No.
no!
Oh.
Oh, that's a tragedy. Oh. Maya does get KDS. Gets immediate revenge. And then Army crawls his way to a little bit more safety, but what an unfortunate way to lose out Nesk there.
His old man eyes are failing him.
Right in the middle of the screen twice, but oh well. These things happen. How he's living.
How have they missed him? Oh,
ludicrous.
Dear. Remember I said this. This was the area. This was the danger zone for FaZe. And if you cleared this out, they could plant. Miss the fire arrows, but still have a plan B. They've went to Sophia him downstairs, and it does mean that Diaz cannot sit safely as what he did previously, but it's going to be a full solar take. I think they know this, but Diaz goes down, Dafo for the trade, and really it's Maya who has to try and hold this down, and oh, almost the time he still gets down. It's going to be a 2v2. Dafo and Landa have to hold it here for Liquid.
2 versus 2, 20 seconds, and they have a Capital Bolt to try and plant behind, and that is it. But on the other side of it, there's a single C4 to try and stop it. Where are they going to play it and go for the deploy? There's the rotate round. The C4 will go over the top, and we'll catch one right on the cabinet. 4 seconds. Vidiking in a 1 versus 2, looking for a fight. Somehow slaps the first, but not enough time to try and hunt down both. Still remains a Liquid sight, but closer and closer.
Obviously, it was better from FaZe. Still missing 2 Capital Bolts. Not the greatest. And obviously, that little mini game that we had, the kind of warm up before the round really got going, was a fun one. But even you think about the player that they lost, nobody was out on that bathroom balcony. You know, that would have been massive if FaZe had kind of refortified that position, rotated someone there. They could have controlled anyone rotating in through bathroom, which is obviously a worry if you're going for that plant. Because you have to remember, in that 2v2, as one player's going for the plant, the guy who's remaining is in a 1 versus 2. And he knows the 2 options, where the defenders are going to go to try and stop that plant going down, is going to be one right in front of him, in through the bedroom rotate, or comes in through bathroom. And he can only hold one, and that's why he had to go aggressive, try and shut down one of the angles, and then still give him enough time to get that kill, and rotate back to stop the plant happening, or to make sure the plant goes down by stopping that player rotating in through bathroom. He probably would have enough time, but the C4 comes out, always makes a big issue. But yeah, closer for FaZe, but still Liquid, hanging in there.
5 seconds to go.
Hanging in there is, it's almost an unfair way to describe how this team has played this map, but also it is factually correct, right? It feels like FaZe have taken the back half of this game when they were on death's door. There's never been a bigger divide than 2 rounds or so, but in the same sort of breath, in the same sort of momentum, Liquid, they should have put this one to bed. The longer this goes on, the more of a worry it becomes. As I said before, if it does end up FaZe taking this map, then they have a really hard uphill to do as the follow through, and they want to get themselves into the position where they're separating the chance at a major by a single series. FaZe in the lower bracket. We said it before in the previous game for Los. It's never going to be easy for any of these teams. Imagine having to be like, oh, I'm in the lower bracket with FaZe.
Yeah.
Either way, not there yet. It's obviously still map 1 of a best of 3 series, and we still haven't got the completion of this one. So Liquid just need the importance of being able to put the one that is into their favor over the edge, and the map that they get the full sort of control on in terms of choice and how it's otherwise going to play out. FaZe at this point, how important Cyber has been? Well, it was a sort of a story back and forth on the opening half, but there was that defense round that if it wasn't for him, it wouldn't have been for them. Here, as I said before, this is a position he's often played. Leave him off to his own devices, let him draw the attention and utility out, and then he'll probably find a kill before he's caught out. He is doing exactly the same thing. Will Liquid go in for the bait itself? The call is going to come through, but there needs to be somebody else opting for the pinch. Potentially, in fact, no. They're going to move away. They're not opting for this engagement. Try and move him away with a different level of threat, and instead it's just Maya versus Cyber in a slow one-on-one hunt. Sort of feels like how most of this game is gone.
Oh, Cyber, has he heard the jump in? I don't think he has, and rugby call comes in. He's just going to try and front it up. Who's going to pre-fire who? And the SMGs rattle back and forth, and somehow Cyber able to work his way out, and Souls with the support. The tag team onto Maya. Looks to be that might cement it here for FaZe. Liquid. Round done and dusted, it feels like. Under a minute left. 2 players versus 5. D has getting peppered out on the balcony. Was able to pick up 1, but still a lot of kills that he has to find, and there's Souls of the trade. Land, I think they know where he is too, and yeah, an easy one for Viking. FaZe clan respond very, very well, but it felt like that was supposed to be a 1v1, and then Souls has ruined it. Souls has came in with a steel chair.
You can see
as the referee wasn't looking.
Cyber's frustrated. He wanted that kill.
Yeah.
You know, and it's great that we get to have 2 great players on a great game on a great day go against each other, but also it's sort of this thing of they almost forgot that there's other people in the lobby.
Yeah,
It's like you can't just send the corner like that, especially with the fact that an engagement has come up and every player is still standing, and also no one else is applying pressure elsewhere. It's really easy. for them in some regards to be able to get a bit of support there for Cyber, and
Locate and defuse bombs.
a bit too blinkered, a bit too locked in towards the race ahead of them. Now, though, this is where things get very particular.
Attackers have discovered the location
We
of
head
a
on
bomb.
towards kitchen dining. Not going to go down below, and instead we go to a site that otherwise they lost both times on their attack. And on their defense, even. FaZe took it both times on their attack. Liquid have opted to come to the site that is otherwise entirely evaded them. And is it a risk that's going to pay off rather than the bar dining where they bar gaming where they took it before? I guess that's down to them.
Defuse a bomb.
Your priorities seem split between your lab and the field. We must all choose one path. I make it work, Azami.
Magnet deployed.
You're not going to comment on that?
I was letting it play out. It was a little bit flirty. Makes it work, Azami. Mira and Azami, are they together?
I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole with you. I know better.
Someone give me the law, stat! Now, resting on the pressure of where we to go, more than where we've been at this point, Liquid. How desperately do they need that opening statistic? You know what a fun thing is? They've only had it 4 times throughout the game. The last time they had the opening kill was in round 8. Otherwise, it has entirely been away from them for the rest of the game. FaZe are just so much snappier, so much quicker on that statistic. Wanting to get...
This is a fast approach.
I was going to say... almost immediate.
I mean, this is such a make or break play, because if he gets drones or anything, he's as good as gone. But if he doesn't, he could appear with 1 or 2 kills here, and up he comes! No, Souls is switched on for it. The big player for Liquid is gone. FaZe have the early lead. A great trade though from Daffo. Swings for Halfwall. However, FaZe keep on marching through as the Blackbeard C4 comes in. Anyone gonna help him? Anyone help?
Well,
Daffo, help! He's screaming for it.
Lendo's got his help. Now at this point, Daffo needs somebody, but also Vidiking needs somebody. As soon as he drops the shield, it's going to be dangerous. You can see a rotate to the Sophia coming around, but it's the piano of KDS that finally locks it in. Lenda and Diaz, just Diaz. All that's left does some damage, does the rest of it. But it's a Blackbeard and a Sophia, and Handy has the cover, and FaZe have the map. After everything, they're able to push it over the line. That is your Mount Rushmore of memes of the olden days of Siege. Thanks for everyone to bearing with us as we sorted that out. Thanks for playing. Now we're back in towards the game. FaZe versus Liquid, and well, we'll sit through the bans again. We obviously were partially underway with the round just before. And it's exactly the same setup in terms of where we're going to go to. Off towards lockers, and limitation, a bit of hard breach, the Grim ban as well. Specifically pull that away. Not the most common sort of ban that we get through, but it is one that, against the right team, does really limit. In fact, looking over the times that they've sort of played bank here, neither team has ever played in a game with a Grim ban by the looks of it.
It's certainly like just a universally good operator. You know, Grim is right up there in my eyes as S tier, brings a lot to the party. You think about the hard breach gadgets as well, which I think is a very underrated thing that he brings. You think about maps where teams will go straight in for double hard breacher bans. You think about this map. You think about labs. You think about Clubhouse. Having an operator who can bring hard breach gadgets is great, but then the general use of his gadget is also fantastic for so many occasions. You've got 5 E canisters that you can use to clear out roamers. Obviously, really good for executes, we know that. And just generally just a fantastic operator that you have. So I think whenever it comes to bank, there's going to be so many opportunities that you can use those Bs, just like every map. I mean, he's just so darn good at the moment. So yeah, take it off the board. It just limits one of those options for FaZe, or for Liquid, sorry, where they can just erupt, you know, using that bits of util. So it means they're going to have to go down a different avenue, such as the Ying, who basically everything I mentioned about Brim, Ying can also do the same, which I think that's the way it is in the meta. And also, guess what? There's also a third person called Capital. That's it. Brim,
What?
Ying, and Capital. They do the exact same job. Every single one. They are like the hard breachers of clearing out operators.
Wow. We'll see if they can try and get themselves a bit further in. There's a catch. And an FNAT. And a ball back. The C4 over the top won't quite net anything, but they do find a route to run out. It's a lot of focus Lender is drawing right now, and they're desperately trying to just get something pulled away. Here comes the cavalry with Nesk on one shoulder. You can see Liquid is also surrounding the rest of the mid floor, but there's nobody catching the top. So they've been able to pull themselves up main stairs a bit, and the clear hasn't really cleared anybody. It just sort of shifted the positions round. Oh, there's a take. Cyber gets their head ripped off, and oh, they've dropped their way out of open. Now, though, there is still a player above them.
Yeah.
I'm going to assume it's KDS. No, it's Handy, being led around by an Echo drone.
This could be it. This could be the big issue here for Liquid. If a roamer goes unchecked in towards that top floor, think of the damage that Handy can do for the square take. You know, whenever that hatch gets opened up, which it usually will, over towards server. Oh, never mind, they know. That they know 100% that he's up there. Why else would Nest be holding on to that angle? So they are aware of a roamer. So I don't think that Handy's going to have the same surprise as what he would like to.
Well, that's it, right? So they've opted not to take him. Instead, they're going to start the pressure on towards the site and just leave someone paying attention. Handy is now on the move. Assumed to see his name in the kill feed in the top right very soon, as he looks like he's pushing over towards top square. Instead, they're moved where they're watching him from. Nesk bottom main, hoping that he was going to rotate this way instead, but with a drone placed in that position and a shield still juggling utility, well, look what they've still got, Demo. Smoke canister, at least in the pocket. They don't have a C4, but they have an Echo drone, and they have 20 seconds to try and get this plant down, as well as pressure coming in behind. How this player has been able to slip this way, this far, this quick, this long? Not anymore, but with 10 seconds, they've still got to stick the plant, and that allows Souls to just do this. They were so focused about baiting one way. Vidikin gets a lock in. Maya tries to drive it once again. There's Maya once again. Now they've got to watch this last player. Nesk gets the cover finally, but as close as it could come.
Oh, a little bit touch and go there for Liquid, but Maya straight in with a double kill. I mean, nice attempt there from FaZe. Kill the player in the hatch, play aggressive, don't allow them on the in, but you see that roam, they knew. So he was never going to have the same impact as what he naturally would have. And because they knew he was above, did you notice that Liquid did not, they didn't open up the server hatch because of that? If you know that there's a roamer, that hatch is going to be his biggest biggest takeaway from that is he can utilize the hatch to kill you from square looking straight under the server. If you know he's up there, you know he's roaming, you don't open up that hatch. Yeah, that would be a very direct sense of a take where you know there's going to be roamers and you just try and ignore them. So they don't open up the hatch for that reason. It then forces Andy in a position where he has to then leave the safety of that top floor, stroll into the open arms of Nest, and yeah, doesn't have the impact that what he probably should have. So yeah, I have to give credit to Liquid. They understood the assignment. They're really, really well done from them.
Liquid get at the end of it, and it was sort of problem solving part by part as well. Obviously the drive of the Monty immediately in, and you know, picking off and seeing the change of pace instead. Handy wants to fight with a DMR outside the front DOR, but nobody's there to try to fight back. Couldn't find a way to make DMR sound like door. I'm sorry for even trying, as was Handy looking for the fight out of that position as well. You look at what they can try and close down on, you know, operators you talked about a lot. You've got Ying filling in that sort of grim role, putting that immediate pressure in. They want to have a brawl though. Nesk on the Deimos, the role of the Sense, they are just going to try and steady away with utility. I wonder how much the Maestro cams are going to play in towards this space as well as the Valkyrie cams. It's a big intel drive here from the side of the defenders, and the IQ can only really get rid of half of that. But early pressure forces them back to the site.
Liquid not wanting to continue on with the Monty, which did pretty well for them in the last round. Instead, wanting to kind of focus more on a bit more util dump. Bring in the Flores, for example. You've also got Landa now in the Sense, and yeah, we know how Sense kind of gets used for this top four. And also keep in mind that Liquid have chosen not to bring any hard breach, so it will not be a traditional take in free square. So the only way that they're gonna probably get a plant down is via sensing and yinging off the entire bomb site and just trying to swing in through those windows and get the plant. So if FaZe are, you know, aligned for that and are ready with all their C4s, and I say all, there's one, that is it for the top floor. They've went for a Maestro and Smoke as their main form of plant denial, which I think is not the most common way that we see this top floor. Usually it's C4s galore, but hey, want to try something a little bit different. Here comes the first set of util.
Well, the first set, the second set, and what sounds like the third set is thrown in. The only one thrown out has been Daffo. Candela has led to nothing other than a quick demise for a Ying. At this point, the silence behind it sort of worries you. There's a second. Handy gets himself locked in as Cyber gets one of his own. And now, well, the pressure is coming all the way across the board. Diaz and Lender, they're looking for an engagement. But KTS decides to dance his way to the fight and get the last. Lender sat outside the building. Yeah, might pre-fire and get her down on towards at least one. We'll confirm it with the grenades. That is just a bit of stat padding more than anything. Tied up, one apiece. Very different round, but a very solid defense here for the side of FaZe.
Yeah, easy lockout. It was a case where I think FaZe just were ready. You know, the first bit of util comes in, they then fire out their util. They use the smoke, make sure that you just can't swing in through the windows at that stage, and which is a very just long, drawn-out process there for Liquid. Just not a lot really going on for them. It just never really got going. I almost feel as though I'd like to see them lean into the shield gameplay more. I think that'll probably bear them better results than kind of what I'm seeing so far in that second round. So I think you lean in with the shields. I think it's going to be a good point that they can really, you know, utilize and just give themselves that little bit more of active information, which would have helped. You know, they were able to get the information and know who's playing where. I believe they were able to spot out everyone for the demos, but again, spotting out and getting the information from the demos is very different than being able to just get the drone in and seeing where the weak spots are and then combo that over with the demos, let him maybe go below. There's a really good opportunity there for Nesk as well to really play with the vertical action you can have on that bomb site. Amos downstairs, who has everyone available to track, could have really made that work a lot more.
5 seconds to go.
At this point, that sort of trade back and forth of rounds is almost that weird moment where we go, okay, this could be a traded game, or that was FaZe locking in. And now we might get a little bit more of that energy continued. You've had a couple of moments in that opening round where they were decent at fishing them out, but the stretch of the map is something that, it's a game in a weird way FaZe control the pace of. Look at how Liquid tried that utility jump, tried that pressure, and couldn't quite get things to land. And instead, well, let's try it again, I guess, with a bit of the taste of the first round. Lender on the shield. But what happens if the Monty gets banned, which it probably will? Will you go to the Blackbeard, a smaller shield? Do you try and run this with a slight adaptation in that manner? I guess we'll see how important it is that Lender is followed with a gun on either shoulder. Checked in towards the front of the building, and with some long eyes watching and pressure on towards Kanto, they're going to hope to force the players further down, but, well, stopping the rotate through and just leaving yourself an angle. How do they get rid of this mute jammer up here?
Well, I think the Monty could probably just do the job, walk up and just probably shoot it off. ADS, is he going to let him do that for free? Make him fight for it in the elevator. Oh, almost Lender, very close to losing his life, but that's a wake-up call and a half for him. So Lender have to get that information fed over to your teammates who have entered into the top floor, and Dato has that opening pick, and Maya, the damage there from barbed wire, but don't tell me the Aruni's trapped. Surely you can drop down the hatch, and yep, there goes KDS.
Yeah,
Nesk was able to get handy. And, well, FaZe just one by one, dying.
Yeah, I mean, obviously missing the player inside the elevator is one thing, and it not netting a kill is at least that change, but how they were able to then capitalize on all the other players sort of shows that Liquid were ready for the others at least, and they didn't have to hit it with alarm bells. KDS and Souls. All that's left is we hear the start and that scream of a Candela across the floor. 40 seconds, they'll pull themselves back. It's just this taste of the first bit utility, but look how much is still in the pockets. And a fair amount of smokes. They've obviously got a Monty. There's a single C4 that can try and slow it down, but the Monty's just calling all of this, and it's an easy pickup from Daffo, leaving just Souls in a flawless, well, this really is traded rounds.
Yeah, not bad. Not bad there from Liquid, just using that shield to get themselves into the building. I think that's the way forward for Liquid, really using those shields. I expect to see the Monty ban, no doubt at all here from FaZe. They cannot allow that operator to continue doing what he's doing. But yeah, FaZe, just one of those rounds where, you know, they lose the opening engagement and there's just always chasing the kills. And sometimes whenever you're chasing the kills, things actually go, you know, quite wrong for you, and it kind of backfires. You just add on even more deaths to it.
It's the weird understanding of we do need to take one, right? We saw it, or you see it very apparently in the map that we had before on Chalet. The amount of times it was a 2 versus 4 round. So instead of shying away and hoping and sort of being a backline, you get in an unusual position. You try and get a kill, because if you get one, suddenly it's only a difference of, like, you know, it's a 3 versus 2. It's so much more winnable, and it's a 3 versus 2 that they didn't expect to be in at that moment in time. If you might be able to win the engagement when they go for the pressure, but if they have the man advantage, they can just set up a trade on an expected position. You want to try and shake that. Hiding the Valkyrie, being as hidden and sneaky as possible, so they can try and play it with the Valk cams. But as I said, the Monty ban, it was always going to happen. What's the adaptation? Fuse instead.
At least they have a shield. That's the main thing anyway. And obviously Fuse, I think, has seen a great deal of play down here for the basement. Being able to fuse off a hatch and try and pick up those Goyo canisters, been the main way that we've seen that operator be utilized. Again, very RNG dependent. Not all the time do we see the hockey pucks actually hit its target and get the Goyo canisters. So you are putting yourself up to the willingness of how, you know, lucky you are today. Currently here for FaZe, I think the approach is going to be just this kind of softer roam that we see time and time again, where you're not looking to hold on to a certain part of the map, but still kind of linger just beside a hatch and then just drop down if you need to. Look at this, a double swing from Blue! That is beautiful from FaZe to get them the opening pick.
Just shut him out immediately. It's Maya gone, there's a fuse, and somebody's going to step over the top. They're well aware of it, and they're not going to see what happens next, but without that opening body, well, that's a blow that they'll have to live with. The back's being opened up. I think based on the double swing, you're probably not going to get so much pressure here on towards this side. They're going to lose this first bit utility because, well, actually, no, they're not. They're going to peel away. And there's the second bit followed through that already destroyed the laser gates that were on top of the 2. They weren't tricking them. I just missed the trick. Now, with 2 little bits of pocket destruction left on towards the approach on the site itself. Will they try and land this on the default? It's actually FaZe that they got that opener, and then to be fair, they haven't really contested anything else here. I mean, they've just pulled back to the site. Yeah,
I think that's the idea of the strategy. Trying to play pretty reserved, just pester Liquid just a little bit in that opening. Oh, Cyber, what a shot! Down goes Ness. And little by little, this Liquid attack is falling apart. Afo and Diaz are both upstairs, leaving Lenda the only person on that bottom floor inside a server, but right now he's being choked out and there's still more smokes that he has to go through, and I'm sure a C4 that Viking has his name written all over him.
Less than 30 seconds. And now, as you said, they've got to try and get it to stick. There's still that C4. Another smoke goes out. And at this point, they've just got to try and send it in a little bit deeper than they think. There's Diaz getting 1 and 2. Diaz just drops it and sends it on the hats. The smoke does end the player with the kit. And Dafo's now all that's left. In a 3 versus 1 as FaZe are able to hold on to the ship and hold on to the man advantage. There's one. The other two aren't showing their heads. And we are just back and forth.
At FaZe, good defense. Got the picks when needed to. Just played into, just the way that bomb site is with the utilization. The smoke canister was able to kill the fuse. Stop that plant from going in. Obviously there for Liquid is a case of timings, maybe? Is it just worried, you lose that opening engagement from a great double swing? I think that really made the round for me, was that double swing onto the blue stairs. And it almost kind of stunned Liquid, where they were worried that there could be more of that lying in server. They had to take their time, and that's the issue with that basement. You can't afford to take your time on that bomb site. You need to pick up the pace. Remember, you're against the Goyo, against the smoke. You're always going to be up against it, so you cannot afford to waste any time in any other sections off the map. You're not allowed to struggle with a roam. You have to be able to take server. Those are areas which you have to sweep through if you want to win that bomb site.
5 seconds to insertion.
Yeah, it's weird how handy some of these rounds feel, right? In a manner, it's strange how it's sort of strongly swinging its way back or forth in one manner. It feels like teams, as you said, they're learning these lessons of the maps. They're getting these basics nailed. They're getting the expectations of what they need to be nailed. And then sometimes it's just forgotten how, sending it in, see what happens, lol lol. Ooh, Andy tried to get a little hop up. Remember how this site went last time? There was a lot that Handy was able to do, but Liquid spent a lot of time chasing him around half of the map, and it was only really when they got towards the final push that anyone actually died itself. But still, that time taken out, they threw in all their utility as much as possible, and nothing came on towards the back of it. Here they need to see if they can change the fate of what was otherwise put together. With the blitz itself, obviously they didn't bring a shield on this side last time. That's at least a major change, but look, there's someone still on the side of FaZe, I think deep towards the bottom of the main stairs and garage. They have a chance to rotate up and strike in the back, and sometimes that's the benefit towards the hold, and sometimes it's just not got anywhere close, demo.
Shields. Still gonna stick with that strategy, which I think it's the right one to do, but I don't know how I feel about a blitz walking up Spiral though. He's not as safe as the Monty. He will take quite a lot of damage as he goes for it. I would like to see them try and use him in a different aspect, and it looks to be that maybe the blitz has got a bit of a sniff here to try and pinch onto this roamer all the way in towards the basement, so Cyber's going to be up against it, fires a C4. Landa takes a lot of damage, but Cyber's more focused on the other attacker. Oh, what a peek down Diaz. Landa needs to get to it, needs to try and pick up this kill, protect his teammate, but look at this from Cyber. Make sure there's a lot of distance between him and the blitz. Don't allow that blitz to be up close and personal. Landa was thinking about going for the revive, but Cyber just thinks, oh, I'll just walk through your smoke and get the pick anyway. Cyber gets out of that. I have no idea how he does that. Magical footwork.
It's the main aspect there, right? As you said, distance was so perfectly kept, and then he used the fire extinguisher to his advantage. He was like, oh, you gave me this? Amazing. Now I can finish my kill and cross the divide without the pistol dropping me, and then kept the distance from the blitz the whole time. The blitz didn't step into the engagement instead, and it loses them the trade here. A misplay and a missed moment, and again, these basics that we talked about go back and forth, but Nest does find the head of KDS and then just keeps pushing as Maya gets one in the meantime. Cyber's able to at least keep it obviously even. They've still got the shield, but 10 seconds, and now they don't have the shield. Can they try and push it inside the site? No, as the players inside the site get executed. FaZe! They are able to, for the first time, cross this, wrap 2 rounds in a row. And that's that worrying moment now, where has that been that tip of the scales?
Oh, That is just so decisive there for FaZe. I mean, obviously that opening there for Cyber and that 1v2 scenario, those are I feel as though I'm kind of almost repeating what I said about FaZe whenever they were attacking Shelly and they were struggling against Liquid in their defenses. That is an opening that Liquid have to take. You need to punish Cyber there. Whenever he is downstairs by himself, no way out. Also, he's an Oryx, not going to jump up the hatch. And you have a blitz. And also another thing for FaZe, they were more than happy just to let a Cyber died. Nobody was ever going to really chase after him there and try and help him. Cyber was down there just to do his job.
10 seconds to insertion.
And I can't believe that he's got away with it. I really can't.
I mean, if anything, that's the sort of paramount moment of it all, right? You have what should be a catch. Cyber's been able to get this pressure on. There's a blitz in this sort of engagement. They, in some ways, are doing the right thing, but also it's tough, and it's drawing time away. And then they opt to go for the pickup in that engagement and cross the door, hoping that Cyber would just leave, but he ain't gonna do that. He's gonna stick around. He's gonna go for the pressure and the kill, and especially with the day that he's having, you almost have to expect that he is gonna want to end something that he started. And I'll hear on towards open. FaZe can set them up 4-2 in the lead as well. You sort of look at how this map balances between these two teams. Liquid haven't won it in sort of recent memory, and their defense win rate isn't much better than their attack win rate. In the meantime, FaZe are stronger on their attack here on Bank. Pressure comes across in towards the pillars of square. The C4 gets Maya, and a shield covers a bit of the distance, but they're in a bit of a sticky situation here. They've tucked themselves in. Nesk has the cover for a double, though. Huge work, and now they're just going to see if they can try and send the plant in, but the smoke doing massive work here to delay them operating on the back of this double kill. Fine, they have this territory, but the fact they have to sit and wait is a bit of a tragedy for the approach.
Yeah, and they've not got any hard breach, so that quad wall will remain closed, and that's always a tricky position that see time and time again. Players struggle with clearing out where, you know, kitchen always going to be a bit of an issue, but looks to be not so much as, again, that shield just walks through. I mean, Nesk has been able to pick up, what, 3 kills just by holding an angle, more or less, and yeah, handy up against it. Here comes the shield, who takes a bullet into the leg and fires out yet again. Another Zoto canister, but Nesk again just picks up 4 kills, doing very little. Just a static position that he played in, and yeah, Liquid, the round has worked for them.
Again, we haven't left the weird pacing of these rounds. I don't know what it is about this game. It feels both slow and fast, and I think the responses to each other has been really well put together. It's not entirely coming down to a moment, but every single round feels like they're going, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. And it's like a sword fight. Will it continue on the second half, though? That's the sort of split of things. Obviously, it was a 3-3 opener on our first map, on our first half, and then our second half, and then it went all the way in OT. Here, we have ourselves tied up once again. If we get to OT and we have a chance at seeing a full map round again, imagine. For all the pace of our first game.
And defuse as many bombs as they can.
Well, I would believe it. I would. I think it's too far off the imagination train. You ever been nuts train?
Only to see the dragons.
Right.
And a world of pure imagination.
No, that's not good. Let's not start.
Okay.
Let's not start the musical.
Imagine. Okay, then can I leave you with one vision from that? Just one, and then I promise I'll talk about Siege. Imagine Parker playing the role of Willy Wonka. I think
No, it'd be Oompa Loompa.
Okay, then Milosh is.
But see, whenever I just every time I just think of is it raining? Is it snowing? Which way
That scene.
That's all I think
going?
of.
Cover me.
Yeah, that's why I'm imagining Parker on that boat leading people through a confusing moment. Anyway, I said I'll talk about Siege after I made that reference to somebody who is 100% not listening. But maybe Link can pass on word. At this point, again, opening engagement across this series. I know it was something talked about by the desk. This map, again, twice for Liquid across all of the rounds that we've seen.
I found one.
It's really just been something that entirely is out of their grasp here. FaZe, so good at grabbing that first body, at putting that entry in. Cyber's 6-1 on entry. Souls is 4-0. It's unbelievably sharp, their approach in towards the map, and they just haven't been able to find a place to avoid being struck by the spear tip of FaZe. As the pressure comes over all of the hatches and the rest of the map, there's actually not anything that's massively contesting them currently, but when you have Diaz on the chance at climbing around, well, nowhere is truly ever really safe.
Yeah, a few times where the Oryx has actually been like the make or break. Just one flank comes in. It's really all you need from a defensive side of things. Now, Garage was an area that really Liquid had no intention of taking on their attacking side, but FaZe more than ready for it, doubling up, using that also the most common operator that we see have a great success rate here. EMR comes in, gonna break away the cube of barriers that Nesk is trying to put up. The FaZe, none of them will move until that Garage is taken. They know that as kind of have to have a foothold somewhere before you really go for that execute. A lot of FaZe members just twiddle their thumbs at the moment until they're in, and well, what a pick. Somehow Souls has been able to find the smoke of all players.
I mean, if there's anyone you want to take off of this, that's them. You can see the Tiburon was playing with a C4 for a second, but with 30 seconds, they're going to see if they can instead try and put the pressure on. Nesk wins out against the Ossa, and a support structure's coming here, but they take that one too. Nesk! Unbelievable map that he is having right now. 11-3, 15 seconds. They're having to offer their own cover, and they're going for the tuck plant in the default spot. They finally end the terror of the man inside the garage, and they're watching from above, but as Blender gets one more, a 2 versus 2, they've been able to get past the hatch itself. They're chasing down the planter, but they can't make it in time. Diaz either side, and Souls gets the catch on the last. FaZe do it in the final breath, but it still counts as a round win.
Sending 2 players to the garage, losing both of them to one person, and still winning the round. Who would have thought that is the way it would have went? And really, that comes off the back of the first death, the smoke. Yeah. Still don't know how that happened. I'm pretty sure Soul just strolled into server and got the pick onto the smoke. If Smoke's alive in that 2v2, the round's done. Liquid win that. Like, really, that's what it comes down to, is the lack of plant denial for me. Look, obviously, Nesk has done just, what can you say? Nesk doing Nesk things inside a garage. And for him to do all that and to not win that round, he'll be feeling a little bit thinking, guys, what's going on here? You know?
Yeah, I mean, it's the thing about how he's been performing this map as well, right? I know that we sort of said it last map. Would FaZe still be in it if it wasn't for Cyber? You can 100% make the same comparison here for Nesk. 11-4. Yeah, okay. There is that triple kill that comes off of that round. He was able to pull a 4K from the round before as well, so a big chunk of that has been in very recent memory. But still, if he wasn't able to get that big performance before and Open might have gone the other way, then could we be looking at a 5-2 right now? Could we be looking at a massive divide between these two teams?
It feels as though that it's very easy for Liquid to kind of slip down a big old hole. I think we've seen that throughout this stage. Yeah, Liquid, I think with the inconsistencies that they've had, sometimes they've let the heads drop and they have suffered, you know, defeats where they weren't really in the game. And I think that's the worry that I would have, certainly for Liquid right now, is if FaZe just keep up this momentum especially whenever FaZe on their attacks, they know exactly what they're doing on bank. Rory mentioned this is their map pick. They know how to attack it. They know their strategies. They know what they want to do. It should be a breeze in the park. I think bank is a very, very easy map to attack if you know what you're doing.
It's also worth sort of mentioning right now, if we're talking about this pressure, is they're able to take the head off of Nesk, and I make the comment, will they do it without him? Now's the time to prove it. Across the board, Liquid have been, as a team, stronger. You've obviously still got Daffo that's been having a very strong series so far. He's even right now. Maya, we know how he was in the first map. He's a little bit behind the pace. In the meantime, on the side of FaZe, the only two positive players so far across the series are Souls and Cyber. And they've been having absolute outstanding games, but as Vidaking goes down once again, Cyber's taking a lot of damage. It almost becomes this worry that they have more of a reliance. Diaz swings his way around, gets KDS. As I say it, there's Cyber stepping up, and is it just going to be Cyber and Souls once again pushing this one in for it? Maya gets Cyber. Now it is only Souls left. Hit by an Echo drone, somehow finds Lendo whilst being stunned. But now he's between the two remaining players, and he's not going to get very far. There's that teamwork from Liquid, makes the dream work. Can they do it without Nesk? Yes, they can.
Yep, players trading back, helping each other. Yeah, much, much better there from Liquid. And I think for FaZe, you dare argue a little bit too one-dimensional, especially considering they got the opening pick. I mean, maybe it's the case of could they have taken more time with that?
I think it's not. I'm not going to say that they panicked in a way, but there was that weird kind of moment there where suddenly, you know, they've got that opening kill, they've pulled back, and as you said, it was a bit one-dimensional, right? They're just throwing themselves in, hoping they can cover it behind utility, hoping they can cover it behind guns. But Liquid aren't just going to sit and let you do that. It's not that Liquid have been playing scared. It's not that they are on the biggest deficit. They've never really shied away from the gun games. Fine, they were a bit slower on their approaches on attack, but it doesn't mean that they're not excited for that. And it's almost not doing the due course. But this is what we talked about on the other half, where it felt like sometimes they were fully in control of the fundamentals of the game, both teams. And then the next round, they were just missing aspects of it, as if they'd sort of accidentally wiped off the whiteboard and had to fill it in.
Well, FaZe, right in the Monty. See if they can just strong arm their way in towards open area. Plenty of times where Shield just walks in, gets the plant down. Liquid did it. They did it with a blitz though. I think for FaZe, they're not going to be the team who will kind of back down for a fight as well. You know, I think for FaZe, they'll see this top floor hold. They'll probably want to try and contest it if they can. Haven't done anything just yet. Liquid, safe for the meantime. So a much slower approach here from FaZe. Just wanting to use that shield. Put themselves in towards the other side of that top floor, in through CEO and meeting. Still roamers upstairs. Now drop though, so top floor is going to be in control of FaZe. They don't know that yet, but it is. And they come. I'm actually surprised that Liquid dropped so soon. Didn't really get pressure by any bits of utility. Yes, there's a shield coming, but that's really it. I'm actually curious about what the approach is here, Emmy, because I'm seeing the ace down in garage. You know, what's he up to?
Sneaky stuff, buddy. You don't understand it. Daffo, does he understand it? He's not being shy about his approach here, and we'll hear the footsteps, but Daffo's just going to top the corner as Vidaking takes a chunk of damage elsewhere. The Monty's forced somebody down as well below. So there is now at least two pockets of support, and almost catches Lender on the rotate back, but there's the surprise! They knew! Oh, Daffo's caught by Handy. And an ace. I think they maybe didn't entirely know about Daffo's position, but you can see the feet underneath the barricade, and it was one at a time. There's the end of Nesk as well. Lender's massively hurt still back here, and they could chase him down. In the meantime, Vidaking's trying to put pressure in the site. Maya wins one out as Diaz goes down. There's about to be another swing round, draws the focus, ready for the fight, and oh, it's up and down, but It's over. FaZe. Trading. Still continually. And it becomes that moment where that pair of rounds FaZe got in the middle of the previous half, them taking the momentum, with how this game is continuing, was that the most important part?
I'm very impressed. Very impressed from FaZe. If you kind of break that down, the way that they've kind of operated that, they know that Liquid are going to go for that roam. They then move in towards that mid floor. They try and extend themselves in towards elevators. If you force the Monty in through lobby into elevators, player in elevator is going to drop down the hatch naturally. Okay? If you place a guy in garage, he has now locked that player out of the game. It just so happened that they found two. The first guy who was down there, by the way, I don't even think that FaZe, that's who they were after. I think that they were expecting that there would be a guy in an elevator, the Monty comes in, makes him drop down the hatch, they would catch him from the guy inside a garage. They were not expecting two players to be down there. They've got buy one, get one free. That's what's just happened there for FaZe. Because you remember the way that basement's laid out. If someone's in garage, you can't get upstairs again. You go up through main stairs, held by garage. Try and go in through red corridor, into CC, into server, held by garage. So, I just think that they're very fortunate the way that's worked out there from FaZe, but, I mean, two players downstairs in basement for Liquid, it has not paid off.
Bomb located by attackers.
With only 2 rounds now separating FaZe from progressing along the upper bracket, or Liquid dropping down to the lower. All that pressure still obviously circling here, and we've had a worrying sort of drop out and drop off of some of the recent players here from Liquid. It still feels all or nothing on some of these rounds, but in that game, that showdown, the difference currently is that on the side of FaZe, you've got both Souls and Cyber stepping in just that extra step, and only Nesk really managing it from, I think it was 11-3 to 11-6 now. Huge pair of rounds, and then nothing for 2 rounds in a row. It's always going to hurt your chances at progressing. First engagement, that opening kill, that haunt over the name and the logo of Liquid right now, as still only 2 rounds have gone into their favor. That first engagement, and Maya almost suffers to add to that. They haven't had an opening round win since round 3 of this as well. It's just consistently a different member of FaZe each time. And in fact, overall for the series as well, Souls is currently 5-0 on entry, Handy 5-2, Cyber 6-1. You really don't know where the next blow is going to come from for the side of FaZe, but seemingly they can always master it.
FaZe have quite a lot of work to be done here, Emmy. They have got full control of the map, bar basement, because Liquid have allowed that. Liquid are really turtling in with this hold. Look at the lineup of operators. You've got the cage, you've got the tubs. They're trying to deny access to the hatches, but the Maverick is there to counteract all of that. Also your smoke and your Goyo, and it's just all about speed here for FaZe and how quickly they can maneuver around this map, get the hatches opened up, start popping the Goyo canisters. Dafo's already had to use 1 smoke canister to allow him to escape down the server stairs because he was very aggressive on the blue stairs. So he's back in sight now. That does give FaZe now the green light to get themselves in, and KDS opens up that default wall. Another Goyo will be popped, but still really good time management though here from FaZe. And can even try and force out these smoke canisters very early on if they try and plant in the long angle, which they have done. That's just a bit of fear there from Daffo wanting to get the U-tilt out early on, just in case that FaZe were maybe thinking about a plant, but now that's all they have is just the 1 smoke canister. Yes, they have a C4, but is Diaz going to be in a position to use it? That's the real question.
30 seconds, and Nesk finally finds that opening body, one that's evaded them, and it's on the shield. Blackbeard has dropped. Can they try and land this on the back end? Cyber caught out as well, Maya. ready and waiting with Defo getting the spread of kills further in their favor. Defo doubles it down for a flawless. Not done yet. Traded back and forth as it has been an eternal dance in this showdown. As a still said, weird pace. Slow into fast, into slow, into fast. There is no time signature to this demo that we can keep a track of other than when things are happening, they are happening. All that we know is neither team wishes to let the other one get more than 2 rounds ahead. But Liquid, they're the one that is a step behind. They're the one that is being led in this dance by FaZe. They're the one that needs to sort of swap the hand positioning and shake it up a little. They're going to try that on the top floor with a clash in the hands of their top frag-esque.
I mean, overall, for Liquid, it was well played. It was almost like a bit of a bait. You know, naturally, FaZe are going to be thinking, okay, these guys are just sat in bomb site, turtling. We had to deal with this. And then there was almost a flicker where everyone from Liquid thought, right, let's go aggro. And they just started swinging. And they got their picks, they got their kills. It really caught FaZe by surprise. FaZe were thinking their win con's going to be just trying to play with a util denial. But, you know, we can deal with that. You know, it doesn't matter. You know, we're in good shape here, we're in good timing. And then they just weren't ready for Liquid to just go as ferocious as what they did. So yeah, credit to Liquid. I love the switch up. Whenever all your util is gone, you have to do something. You know, Liquid, they'll know, okay, we're out of util. They're going to be able to plant. We need to go and do something. Let's give us at least a fighting chance. And they done so. So yeah, very impressive with Liquid on that round. Square it up, 5 rounds apiece. We go up to this top 4. And now with FaZe, last time they were here, I was pretty confused that they didn't try and abuse that extra man because they got the kind of early pick right from the rip. Just didn't really use that extra man. Nomad gonna be ready for that clash. Nesk is gonna have to get out of there and does so successfully. Because he just can't enter in now towards Stock. To linger over towards the corridor. In goes Forest Drone to remove that shield, so the player in Janitor will be a little bit more naked now. But I think for FaZe, it's just this default take of trying to get in towards square, open up that breach, and see what happens.
Yeah, so as well, they sort of have a perfect combination of operators to deal with in some manner that clash. You've obviously got the pressure you can apply with the Glads from a bit of distance. If they deploy the shield, the Flores can make sure they pick it up or lose it. The Nomad as well, to just cut off areas they can sort of presently play in and pop it behind. Yeah, fine, they don't have the Capital to apply the pressure in that manner, but it's still just this limitation. The Clash has been able to get themselves a bit tighter. It's just going to get droned out in the lockdown, but it's not going to slow close down. Does get hit by an air jab, at least in one location, as Maya gets themselves an opener. Said the Flores can try and lean in on the back of this clash. They're just trying to draw the attention in. Nesk is re-shielded and de-shielded back and forth either side, and is making sure that all the focus is put on towards them. The spray through. And it's sort of a statement of saying, look, you can't just swing onto us, right? We are here, we are paying attention, we're keenly aware. There's an echo drone as well, just to really lock in the idea that we know you're in that box, but Cyber doesn't care. Kills Maya out and about. Souls has taken a lot of damage. They've been able to wrest some control of the map, but they need to try and get something that isn't under the constant threat of the awareness here of Liquid. There's the catch, there's the smoke, there's the roll, and there's the pressure on towards Janitors, on towards the plant, and on towards that slip past here, but it's a fight with a clash. They find immediately. Cyber gets it. The smoke forces the plant off, as well as maybe an echo drone, but as Diaz and Dafo both take a lot of damage, as Dafo swings out, almost gets Vidaking as well, but he's retaken the position behind the glass shield that will just keep on whirring. KDS finds Diaz, and Souls finds Dafo. 10 seconds. And an echo.
No.
Ooh, can't quite play that on the drone. He lost it in the last thread. They've moved off. They're watching. Oh, the side lender. The fadeaway onto one. Not quite enough. Not quite enough. FaZe sit on map and series point.
Oh, what a round. What a pivotal round at that. I actually thought the Echo was going to win, and then he just switches on and he sees the static. Just as he goes on the Echo camera, it gets shot. And did you see the HP too? From the three FaZe players? I mean, it was potential. Really was potential, but fine margins. That kill onto Nesk inside of Janitors I thought, okay, they've killed the Clash. They've got janitor control now. Retake comes in. I'm thinking, oh my word, misses out the engagement onto the thermite. Almost, so many back and forths in that round. Really could have went either way, but it's landed in FaZe's pocket.
Attackers have located a bomb.
At this, as I said, was that doubling down of rounds? Was that flip of the favor of momentum from Liquid's first into FaZe's double? Was that too much? Liquid could push themselves in towards OT, but if you keep chasing, eventually you can't catch up properly and overtake, well, then they will be the ones that go the distance.
5 seconds left before insertion.
And they will be the ones that secure themselves that upper bracket continuation to face, I believe, NIP. It is. FaZe. They are more than hungry for that. After being that top dog team, that hammer lifters, to drifting into mid-table? No. Not my FaZe. Not everybody's FaZe is what they sort of cried out. Resetting the pace when we get into the best of threes. But Liquid, the team almost perpetually trying to fight their way back up towards the top of the board and against these teams holding on for the pressure and for dear life in some regards. They've gone from a flawless to a close round back to this position now with the roam game up towards the top on towards open, a site that has been back and forth in some manners between these two teams, but FaZe took it on the attack pretty well before. There's the pressure, there's the force. Nest takes a lot of damage as well. Just trying to catch whoever's in the core of Archives.
I mean, this is a very kind of crab game plan here from FaZe. Try and get him everywhere that you can and just let Cyber do his thing. He's been the standout in this series for FaZe. Diaz, though, opens up the opening pick. Oh no, this is very bad timing. Cyber, do you know? Do we know? Oh my. Oh, he's back in. He's in, he's out. Where's he going?
I mean, a fight on the... It's baiting so much time as well. That's the thing. The grenade comes out over the top. Cyber finally wins it. But it took, 50 seconds extra out of the approach. They get themselves into the 4 versus 3, though, and that's the worry. Because in the meantime, they've also obviously been able to find Lender in that approach. The Echo is gone. The smoke's taken a lot of damage as well. It'll only take a sliver of that remaining grenade to get the end of it, but that's otherwise it, right? The Capital bolts could be that big draw of the attempt on a plant if they want it, but they're sitting, waiting, hoping to catch them on the rotate round on towards the Beeper's side. FaZe, 40 seconds to set themselves up for this approach, for this final landing, and as the motion starts to come round, Maya, that man of the first map and moment, is going to try and flirt and flit their way back up towards the back of blue, but they have to time this perfectly. Anything less and there'll be an easy pick. Diaz, his health absolutely disappears, but a trade comes out and there's the drop from range onto Cyber. Maya's now all that's left though, but they don't have the kit. 15 seconds and they're gonna try and fight their way towards it. One more standing in the way. Scared, pre-fired, picking it up. 10 seconds, right decision. Ring around the rosies and run. Get out of there so they can't quite get you. Maya takes them through into overtime. Huge clutch, not done yet.
Oh my word. Oh my word, should I say? Because this guy equally is the same as Cyber. It's just Maya and friends versus Cyber and friends. That's all this series been. Two absolute standouts. Honestly, both of them putting their teams on their backs. Wow. OT. Where this goes, who knows?
Defenders, protect your bombs from being defused by attackers.
So we've had 2 even halves and an almost perfect trade pattern of rounds. One each. As I've said a couple times, apart from one pair where FaZe doubled it down. This truly has been just step for step. And now, we're going to continue on with Liquid back on their defense. They're off to lockers and CC. They lost it once. They've won it once on their defense side. Ooh, in fact, we're off into a timeout instead. But, I mean, the comparison of the first game to this is unbelievable.
Yeah. It's it's certainly a game where sometimes when it comes to these big matches, usually like a stump. You know, we kind of seen that in EML this week. But this is the game that's living up to it. And if we go to map 3, wow. Could be a 45 rounder, we don't know. That's the way it's going.
There's an element of me that really wants it to be one. Right? There's this selfish aspect of getting to this position, getting to this sort of setup, and both teams giving it this much. It's not an elimination game. But only one team can win, and you're like, oh, this is great. I kind of want both teams to win. We have a momentary break, though. As we get ourselves in on the rehost. Can FaZe do what they need to do here in overtime? Or can Liquid? On the map where they had the lowest chance, to be fair, when we looked across the sort of analysis, we were pretty confident that if we got to bank and they had lost Chalet, then it probably would go away from them. They haven't won this in their last 3 play days over the past 5-6 months or so, in terms of the tracked core stats that we have. In fact, they haven't even been able to get to OT against Loss, against NIP, against Furia, none of them. And yet, here, against FaZe on their pick, we talk about these teams being in form. Liquid are in great form, great steading. Where FaZe might have taken a foot off the gas a little bit since their earlier successes in the year, Liquid have stomped on theirs. And then, if they pull this map together, we go to Lair as a decider, which both teams enjoy pretty comfy success rates on. So yeah, we could have an all 45er 3 maps in a row.
Just take a breath. And still OT is to come. Really, it's anyone's game. Big moments, I think, has been the main thing in this series. You know, clutches define a massive part of this game. We're well aware of that. Can really just shape how the outcome's supposed to be to how it actually ends up playing out. And like I mentioned, the battle between Cyber and Maya, it's a big one.
Do you know what, though? They are both individually not the highest rated on their 2 teams, or they weren't before the start of that round. The Souls currently sitting plus 11, and Defo was a little bit higher but has dropped off recently. It's the weird moment where it's like, it's almost, I guess, the description and the paramount of it. Chalet was massive and explosive. It was fully Cyber and Maya. And it was a lot of big clutch rounds. And then we went through about half of this map, maybe even 75% of it. And it was not a huge amount of clutches. Or, you know, there was a couple 3Ks and a 4K, I think. But it was a very different pace to it that has now started to return to that opening Chalet. The past 4 rounds or so, you're getting these moments, you're getting these plays, and I still worry about that entry statistic. I think the team is -9 on entry now.
Yeah, not great. But still such an even team, or even game, considering that the team hasn't been performing too well on that stat. And just bear with us, everyone.
This bear with you?
Yes.
Is it Milosh?
I was thinking, I was going to say, I was waiting for you to guess apparently. I was going to say, no, it's Milosh, but you beat me to it.
To be fair, he's the first person we think of when we say the word bear, so.
He's the only person who could take off a shirt and you'd still say, why are you wearing a sweater?
Maybe one day we'll convince them to make content about that.
We're not shaving Milosh as a content bitch.
if we go all 45 rounds, we're in 6 apiece. Our second OT in this series. Last one went all the way and was won out eventually by FaZe, who doubled down with some rounds. But last map was so traded. FaZe immediately in with the timeout as well. Heads in, talk about the game, talk about the plan. But they were, it was last time round. I think both teams got one single round, if that makes sense, or 2 single rounds by themselves, and everything else was blocks. Here, the fact that it is such a pattern is a rarity, even in a 3 versus, even like in even halves, it's not always this manner of an even half, right? Imagine if Liquid then immediately called their timeout.
Just
like, I want to
keep delaying it.
I want to keep talking. We're back in.
Oh,
Liquid. I thought they were staying on the defense last time. I guess
yeah,
that's
is
why
that
we had
why
the
the
rehost.
rehost? Yeah,
It's got to be.
you say the same thing.
I like how they did start setting up and then we're like, oh, wait a second. FaZe were like, hang on a second. Well, FaZe back on their defense, and they're up towards the top floor. They actually won this site both times. This was, I'm not going to say comfortable wins. The first one was, there was a lot of utility that was thrown in. They didn't quite get anything on the back of it, Liquid, and then they got shut down. The second time was a bit more back and forth, but it was still pretty confident. I think it's the only site where it's repeatedly been in someone's favor or not. So here, let's see if they can hold it down or what lessons Liquid have learned. It's been a long time since we've had them on their attack, but again, I'm wondering if that entry statistic that over the past 3 rounds has entirely been theirs after being entirely absent for the rest of the game, pretty much, is something they can continue even after that slight break. Cyber on the Valkyrie, one of those classic player-operator combinations that just makes you a bit scared.
New feed up and running.
Pocket cam, bit of info. Actually, I don't hate the position. It is one of those areas behind that desk that can go undroned and unchecked, and gets the pick. Could be pretty important. However, I think he has his shot. He has been droned out, so Liquid have done for droning correctly. However, he still nets the kill. Landers went to push him below. Sense is gone. Now that is a massive operator that we look at in towards that top floor, and really for Liquid, whenever they're not bringing any hard breach, they're not going to be going for the quad wall, so the only way into that bomb site would be through the windows. And without the sense, how are they going to do that now?
Yeah, that's a massive blow. I don't think there's any other way of really phrasing it right now, right? You've sure got the Capital, you've got the chance at going in with the blinds, but Lender being able to toggle on and off that steady approach and cover massive swathes of flat land when you know the distance you've got to hit and cover is just horrifying to deal with. And Cyber sat untraded on the back of it. As I said, he's one of those players that can double up, but Daffo is about to maybe find a fight, and Cyber is unshaken for now. Places a C4 on one side of the wall, and the fight comes on the other. Great pickup. But it's drawn the man with the kit away, and it's drawn a lot of this focus away. And that's everything that Cyber wanted to do.
Well, what do Liquid have? They have a kill. They've got nothing else. No map pressure at all in towards that top floor. And a minute left. They're going to have to go quick. But they still have got smokes that they have to deal with. C4s also. KDS with all the Kibas hasn't been dealt with either. I just don't know where Liquid go from here. All FaZe have to do is just hold their angles, play their trade game. Because we know that Liquid, they're not going to drone things. They're going to make mistakes because they're just limited with the time.
Ooh, Vidaking almost cooked alive inside Janitors as he's able to get the smoke canisters off, but pulls his way out of the fire from Capital. But the pressure here on towards top main, they're just driving and blinding and driving and blinding as nobody seems to know which way is up, down, left, or right, or where the players are. Caught on the end of the spray. Handy gets a double though. Just try to sprint your way in and unfortunately shown the exit in the door. There's Nesk getting one back for 10 seconds and they pulled themselves back on towards top main, still slipping on the way through the smokes, going for the plant itself, but it's close cover. In fact, no, it's not. Daffo gets the kit secured in a 1 versus 3, immediately pops up to pop ahead, but there's the trade out. And there's the finish off. The closest they've come towards taking an attack on this site, Demo, but not close enough.
Yeah, just too slow for Liquid, and you could see that the final minute, they almost had to move at like 200% computing speed, and they have crashed out massively. They just tried to dump util, but look at FaZe, just how clever. Just walk away from it. You know, they've got no map pressure at all. Stock, main stairs, all those areas, just fall back into. You know, nobody's there. No, you don't have to worry about that. And yeah, just then play their angles. For Liquid, because you're rushing at that speed, you're going to miss something. And really, there's a guy in the elevator, even though the tub got 2 kills. I don't think they knew that there's a guy just chilling, just waiting for them. You're going to kill them anyway. Just tub beating to him. So, yeah, massive time issue there for Liquid. And really, it starts with Cyber again. I have to come back to that point. The fact he gets the opening pick and just wastes so much time, he just sets his team up for such, I don't want to say comfortable, because with all that util being tossed at you, it's not as comfortable as you think, but certainly a lot easier than what it could have been to allow Liquid to set up and do their util dump with actually knowing what they're doing, because Liquid, they didn't have a clue. They just had to rush.
Now, once again, 1 round separates Liquid from their dreams being lower bracket dreams. Not impossible dreams, but yeah, not quite in the nice sleep pattern that you otherwise get from a deep sleep. FaZe on the opposite end could progress themselves across the top bracket, separate themselves from an international appearance yet again to add to an already pretty much endless tally. Get themselves a showdown with NIP. Now though, where will Liquid get that energy, get that lockdown? Daffo obviously was able to bite back some big moments in the previous round, with Ness getting one more. Here they've got this stretch above. They've got themselves at least some exploration of the map. The worry is they get encircled and taken out. You wonder where they're going to use their pocket utility at some point. Nesk, the classic pocket Goyo canister.
Just in case you need one. You don't know.
That was a nice little 2-and-2 there, as we had the framing of one player coming down from the top floor and someone trying to escape out of there, but shows how close they are to each other. 2 ships passing in a set of stairs. It's weird, because I don't think ships should really be on those. FaZe get the hatches open, get themselves some awareness, and now can start applying pressure to the site itself.
Well, this was the kind of similar way the round played it last time we were here, and Liquid, again, loose roam, not looking to really hold it too in depth, and again, FaZe, the clear run of things, they can just move in, get hatches open, do everything that they need. And FaZe, I think their timing was fine, like they were able to move through and clear away all of the util. But then Liquid kind of thought, okay, let's flip the switch and go aggro and start swinging players on hatches, taking gunfights, not allowing FaZe to really execute. I think FaZe will be much better prepared for it. So I think Liquid, obviously they're bringing in, I don't think they had the Dechenko last time, so this is going to give them a lot more util than what they previously had, but still, it's how well can they deny that? And just look at that room. It does not, I wouldn't want to drop into that. I don't like that room.
I don't think you should, and it seems like Cyber, the whole of FaZe is thinking the same thing as they peel back, but think about what has been otherwise used and how much time is left, right? The Shumikas We've got about 14 left. They're being a bit cautious and a bit pacey. KDS is the man with the kit, and he's still drawing this attention. You've still got a C4, and you've still got maybe even 2 smokes and 2 frosts if you really want to slow it down. The cost of utility is actually coming into the favor here against FaZe. There's the roll of the Sense gadget. There's a C4 that does a lot of damage towards KDS, and he can't even move behind it. So at this point, what is that wall offering other than some destruction? Cyber swings. There's suddenly FaZe! Where did they come from? Where do you go? Liquid and Daffo holding on with a shotgun, but as the plant is being secured on the back end, the smoke won't catch KDS. The gun sure will. 1 versus 2. But at this point, with 1 on the back, they're actually going to try and cement the kills. Both of them, yeah, on the far side. They could try and slip their way in, but he doesn't know this truly. There's the cover.
Oh, no.
Not enough time holding on. He's off the kit immediately. He didn't stick it. And at this point, 20 seconds, Daffo, and he's caught. There it is, FaZe. They will progress along our upper bracket. Could do it within the 2 maps required. But it took almost every single bit of it to get there here.